I think all of us have heard about the fabled 7 Deadly Frames, or the PowerPoint Presentation Season 2, but let me tell you, PowerPoint Presentation Season 2 was sacrificed for Shadow's House that came out this anime season, and let me tell you, I knew going into this series that it would probably have a horror/creepy vibe to it, but what I got was something unexpected, something that honestly caught my interest, and it reminded me of that era when I was on YouTube as a kid watching videos, gameplay videos of The Witch's House and Ib, and also watching Rose and Maiden, if anyone's ever heard about that anime. It reminded me of that era, and also the style and design, the Victorian Gothic design also reminded me of Ghostsick, if you've ever seen that anime. So I was really blown away by the first episode. I was just like, visually speaking, it looks incredible. Like, I've always loved the Gothic Victorian designs of just outfits, characters, and stuff in anime, and just games. I love that stuff. And looking at this, it's the perfect design, the perfect art and animation to really emphasize what the tone of this series is. And my oh my, does the Moe Blob with the creepy nature really just blend so well. And let's get into it. So basically, we all know at this point in time, if you have watched anime, there is a trend, there is a theme with creepy anime. Creepy/horror anime that's gonna have a dark twist or dark turn. Usually they can typically be Moe Blob nowadays. That's something that normally happens. I think ever since Madoka Magica kind of opened the floodgates for just the twist on magical girls, but also just how a Moe Blob can be very jarring and creepy, and just like, it really is like, whoa, is this really like the same show I started in episode 1? Basically, ever since then, there has definitely been a trend, a change that slowly anime has been making. And when you look at just all these types of anime that's come over the years, you can see that it's very similar in terms of what we got here with Shadow's House. However, Shadow's House, what's making this really stand out is actually just, like I said, the writing of it, but also the art style. The art style really fits so well with the Moe Blob, because it adds this air of eeriness to it, even though it's supposed to look cute too. I appreciate that. It's very clear that the staff that is working on this, Cloverworks' staff, and anyone else that's freelancers or other studios that were thrown in or whatever, it's very clear that there was a lot of time and passion put into this first episode. I don't know if this is going to carry on to episode 2, episode 3, etc., but at the very least, looking at the first episode, if I was to just judge the series right now, if it could keep this, quality, maintain this consistency, I would definitely think that this series can easily be one of the greatest series of this anime season. It just really depends on how it is adapted, and this is what I need to get into. The studio that is working on this is Cloverworks. Now, you might have heard about this studio, you might not. However, in recent memory, some might know them in a very bad way. That is for the reason that we all should know at this point in time of how bad the PowerPoint Presentation Season 2 was. So, we know for a fact, thanks to that adaptation, how it was done. It's very clear that, people might not like Cloverworks right now. However, as I said many times in different videos, it's not entirely Cloverworks' fault. It's a variety of things. It can be the production committee that just slings the series out of studio, and they're forced to do it even though they have a very tight schedule. I mean, let's look at Studio Mappa with Attack on Titan. Or, you have stuff where an entire series is shifted over to another studio, which is what happened with One Punch Man Season 2, and how it was given over to JC Staff, even though Madhouse Studio had Season 1. So, this is something that happens a lot, and I feel like the Promised Neverland Season 2 was it was tied to unfortunate circumstances. It was tied to the fact that the manga's conclusion, I don't think many really loved the conclusion of the manga. Even if you did, not many people were fully satisfied with it. And because of that, I feel like the writer saw this and wanted to change up the story a little bit with the anime, and then the staff got on board, and it just created the colossal mess that it was, and probably scheduling issues, and you get the point. So, I feel like judging this anime based on the Promised Neverland from the previous season is unjustified. However, I can definitely see that maybe Cloverworks, and they might have pulled a few strings and used their main staff probably to work on this project, Shadow's House, because there is a night and day difference, but also there is a similar tone slash vibe I got from this series in comparison to The Promised Neverland. And let me explain. The Promised Neverland, if you have seen the anime, at least let's just talk about Season 1 or even Season 2, but if you've seen the anime and you've read the manga, it's always had this creepy tone, this mystery vibe, etc. It's always had that. And when you look at Shadow's House, it has a very, very similar vibe to it. It has a vibe to where it has that mystery, the unknown. You don't really have the bigger picture. You don't know what's happening here, but you know something very big is happening. You just don't truly know how the world works at this point. And it reminds me so much of the first arc of The Promised Neverland, or the first season of The Promised Neverland. And so when I look at this anime, it's very clear what Cloverworks is trying to do here. They're trying to present this to fans of The Promised Neverland, but at the same time, it seems like they're really putting a lot of care and nitty-gritty detail, subtlety, and all that into this project, and I appreciate that. Once again, though, anything can happen. I mean, this could turn into Shadow's House, the PowerPoint presentation, the Electric Bungalow. Who really knows? What I'm trying to say is that at this time, Shadow's House Episode 1 is good. And if you want to see something that is a little bit different from this anime season, give the first episode a watch. Now that I've kind of did a long-winded little discussion on that, let's kind of get into my thoughts of the first episode, at least what I think is going on. So, looking at the way everything is presented, we have this family, this Shadows family, that's literally just full-on shadows. And they literally, when they touch objects or whatever, they give off soot, which is basically the black powdery stuff you would see like maybe in a coal mine or whatever. You just see it multiple times throughout the episode. This girl that's called Kate, anytime she puts her hands on the wall or whatever, you just see her drag her fingers across the wall and you just see this black powder just all over everything. And even when she wakes up in the morning, it's all in the air, it's all on the floor, it's all in her bed, all over her clothes. And the reason for why this happens with this individual Kate, besides her obviously looking like a shadow, is because apparently it's tied to her emotions. If she's mad, if she's anxious, etc., it's tied to her emotions and this stuff starts to leak out. And so you know for a fact that this is how we can see this character and understand what they're probably thinking, even though we can't actually visually see their face. I do appreciate that. That is nice writing. That's a nice writing design to let us understand the character without actually seeing their face. On top of that, though, we also have the stuff with our main female character, Emiliko. I think I said that her name right. But basically, she is someone that is technically like a splitting image of Kate, and she's supposed to be the face for her. But she is, here's the thing, a living doll. Now this, I think, perfectly meshes so well with the tone and the vibe of the series, the Victorian Gothic design. It's perfect. And I do wonder how much this is going to play into the story going forward. Because when I was watching this episode and I was looking at, Miliko, our living doll, and then we saw the shadow, it's very clear that the way she tried to skirt around the topic of human when Miliko mentioned it, because she's like, I'm a doll, what are you? Are you human? The way she skirted around it shows that she's definitely not human. The question is, what is she? I mean, it's obvious that she's a shadow, but is she like some form of spirit, a demon, or is she literally like a husk of a lost soul? There is something I am very curious about. I wonder what they're going to do with that, because when I look at the splitting image of her that's apparently her living doll, Emiliko, I wonder if the purpose of the Shadows family to have all of these dolls follow them around, it's supposed to be the face of them, I wonder if they're trying to merge with the doll. I mean, I think anyone that probably watched the first episode got a similar impression. Like, this is a typical story element where, someone wants to kind of possess a doll or whatever, or, live on forever, etc., have a new body to inhabit. And when you look at just everything going on, it looks like that's the purpose of what the Shadows family is trying to do. They're trying to, make the living doll look like them, and then, have their personality, get experience and all that, and after they get a good amount of training and interaction and adjusted to the world, they're able to probably fully implement and attach themselves to the body and possess it. It would definitely fit with the vibe of the series of what it's trying to go for, because they're kind of like puppets or dolls, and they're being used and they're an image. So it makes a lot of sense in that type of context. But to go one step further as well, there's other things that are happening with this, Soot that we don't really know much about. You see, briefly at the beginning of the episode when she's talking to Emilico, she stomps whatever the Soot is moving. Like, it was moving on its own and she stomps it. And we don't know what it is. You could assume it might be like a shadow rat, but it's obviously something else. Something else is actually happening. And I feel like whatever's going on, Kate is probably against whatever's probably going to happen to Emilico. She doesn't want to do it. You can see by the way she just interacts in general, she doesn't want to probably do something, whatever her family's traditions are, but she's being, forced to do it because it's her coming of age ceremony. So it's a good episode. I love this first episode of Shadow's House. I cannot wait to see what's going to happen next, because this, in all intents and purposes, should succeed. We have a lot of anime this season that's like that, so I'm excited. But I want to leave it at that. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy my content, please subscribe. If you like this video, please leave a like. And with that, Chibi out.